Well, again, thank you for being here this morning. As you mentioned, I'm wearing two hats today. One, certainly, I'm pleased to be representing the American Institute for International Steel as a member company, and for my day job, as Wilfred said, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Coutinho and Ferrostone Incorporated, one of the largest independent steel trading companies in the world. And I oversee the commercial operations out of our Americas hub in Houston, Texas. I thought it was important to mention the full name of the AIIS to emphasize the evolution of steel trading in the United States. Years ago, our organization was simply a very widespread association of steel importers, period. But I think, as we all know, globalization now influences all of our lives, and steel is squarely in the middle of the mix, with over half of all the steel tons produced today in the U.S. being done under some form of non-U.S. ownership. Now, this brings me to the point of our press briefing and my remarks this morning. Demand for steel from foreign customers is ushering in a new era in the United States steel market. A new and growing relationship between the steel trading companies and the U.S. domestic suppliers of steel resulted in record levels of profitability and exported tons last year. Now, with a softening economy worldwide projected for 2009, we think the timing of this relationship and the importance of this close and trustful cooperation between the U.S. steel industry, the exporters, and the service providers could not be more opportune. Now, for those of you that don't follow the steel business regularly, this really represents a new era in industry and will have a significant influence, we think, on the future of our nation and of our economy. Now, not to digress, but just a little brief story from my background. I spent the first 16 years of my steel career in the domestic mill sector with two large integrated steel mills that unfortunately ended up being casualties of what we call the dark days of the 1980s. This was Jones and Lockland Steel and J&L and Colorado Fuel and Iron. Now, I have to say, I absolutely value those 16 years in the domestic realm, but I respectfully contend the influence of the very imports that the industry blamed for their demise, they were in fact critical and important elements of literally forcing the United States steel industry to address its efficiency and its severe cost problems at the time. On a similar note, I even recall my J&L bosses in 1975 totally discounting some upstart mini mill called Nucor as a flash-in-the-pan concept that would never threaten our fully integrated beam production at the time. That was in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. Well, I don't think we need to comment too much further on just how wrong that little naive prediction of the mid-1970s was. The change was slow and certainly not without pain, but the industry today can proudly boast and present itself as truly world-class quality and globally one of the low-cost steel producers in the world. And nothing highlights this better than the record exports that we saw in 2008. An unprecedented 13 million tons of steel were exported, with the top destinations ranging from Canada, Mexico, the rest of the Americas, Central America, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Asia, primarily to China and India, and certainly the European Union. The growth in Central America, we think, is a testimony to the success of the Central America Free Trade Agreement, or CAFTA. These were markets that were traditionally the domain of the European mills. Now, this is a market dynamic that we, the Institute, believes can be an important and stabilizing factor for the U.S. mills on an ongoing and sustained basis, and not just as an opportunistic presence. Exports should be viewed as part of the overall business portfolio of domestic manufacturers rather than simply a one-off opportunities based on price. The Institute supports a a strong and vibrant domestic steel industry, and one that has certainly proven to have a well-earned place in the international steel market. This said, no one group knows or manages the business of global steel trade better than the family of AIIS members, and we will be expanding our efforts within the domestic steel community to help this industry meet this challenge. Long-term commitments to move steel internationally, despite worldwide economic hard times, can help the steel companies exploit production economies of scale, improve product innovation, pursue highly specialized R&D programs, and basically increase profitability. A sustained commitment to steel exports from the U.S. steel companies, we think, is an essential element for ensuring the continued viability of the nation's steel producing and consuming sectors. Since 2002, exports of steel mill products have more than doubled. Total exports of steel mill products to non-NAFTA destinations have more than tripled, a little over 3 million tons. Record high U.S. exports of steel last year supported more than 100,000 American steel-related jobs. We ended 2002 strongly, but the financial turmoil gripping much of the world right now, I think we all have to say, makes 2009's projections a little less certain. The International Monetary Fund estimates the volume of global steel trade will shrink 2.8% in 2009. But American steel trading companies are optimistic, and we have a plan to stimulate exports, increase the global competitiveness of the domestic steel industry, and help strengthen the U.S. economy. Increasing steel exports to international markets, even during this crisis, will positively impact current and future business. Steel trading companies and our domestic suppliers of steel must work together to make this vision a reality. Our plan will utilize the centuries worth of relationships that our members have in what we call local people and local places. We will help educate domestic mills on the myriad risks and variables that are inherent to steel exports. We will bring the right customers to the domestic mills table. And we will encourage a commitment from the mills in good and bad times to support our mutual export activities. We at the Institute are dedicated to delivering transparent, mutually beneficial relationships with our domestic partners. Everyone wins. This past year showed us, the trading houses, just how valuable these relationships can be. We appreciate our U.S. steel producing partners, but respectfully encourage the domestic industry to keep up its increased pace of exporting. Today, we would like to issue a challenge to the domestic industry. Last year, more than 12% of the domestic industry shipments were exported. We are challenging the industry to set a goal of at least 10% of its shipments for export going forward. In the past, the domestic industry's export strategy was basically, call it opportunistic, taking advantage of exports when the currency and price considerations were positive for the business at the time. That was the past. Now, with the highly positive reception by foreign steel consumers and a taste for the U.S.-made steel developed over the last 2 years, we think it would be a shame to lose those relationships. Everyone benefits. Steel producers in the U.S. obviously benefit by making a sale that they would otherwise not have made. Our customers in the destination countries benefit from high-quality U.S.-made steel delivered on a timely basis, and the U.S. mills again benefit from having some of this production taken out of the domestic supply. In essence, exporting is a way of managing domestic supply without laying off workers or reducing capacity, and helps support the continued high levels of capacity utilization, which, along with all the related benefits. Disposing of surpluses on the global market